arc in patches from whoever fought here before you. The roar of 50,000 people hits you like a physical wall. And somewhere in that wall of noise, nearly every one of them is hoping to watch you die. Today, for entertainment. On their afternoon off, welcome to the arena. You're a gladiator. And contrary to every movie you've ever seen, the man across the sand is not your biggest problem today. Let's find out what it was really like, and whether you'd last the afternoon. First, how you got here. You almost certainly didn't choose this. Most gladiators were slaves, prisoners of war, or condemned criminals, captured, sentenced, or bought and handed to a man called a lanista, who owns a gladiator school called a ludus. You are now his property, his investment, which, strangely, is the best news you'll get all day, because a trained gladiator is expensive. Months of food, coaching, and medical care go into you. The lanista does not want you dead. A dead gladiator is money set on fire. So the Hollywood version, where everyone fights to the death every single time? Mostly wrong. Most matches did not end in death. The man who owns you is, weirdly, the person most invested in keeping you breathing. Don't get sentimental about it. He'd also sell your corpse for parts. Your day begins before dawn, in the ludus, part barracks, part prison, part gym. You sleep in a cell barely long enough to lie down in. You train for hours, swinging a wooden sword twice the weight of a real one, against a wooden post called a palace, over and over, until the movements live in your arms without thought. The food is a surprise. Gladiators were nicknamed horderii, barley men, because they ate mountains of barley and beans. Not the lean warrior diet you'd picture. The point was to build a thick layer of fat over the muscle. Fat bleeds dramatically for the crowd, but it also shields the nerves and organs underneath from shallow cuts. You're being deliberately fattened, not for slaughter, but as armor. Roman butchery, accidentally ahead of its time. You're also better fed and better doctored than most free Romans. Some of the finest physicians in the empire learned their anatomy patching up gladiators. You'll be stitched, massaged, oiled, and fed like a prize animal, which is exactly what you are. Right up until the afternoon they ask you to die. Then comes a day you're scheduled to fight. And you're not simply thrown to the wolves. There are rules. There are referees. Yes, referees, with long sticks, who circle the fight and enforce them. You're matched by type. Perhaps you're a mamillo. Heavy shield and a fish-crested helmet set against a retiarius armed with a net and a trident. The pairings are designed like a game. Armor against speed. Reach against mobility. Choreographed danger, not a chaotic brawl. You march out in the opening parade. The crowd is vast, drunk, and merciless. The heat coming off the sand is savage, and the smell, sweat, blood, animal dung, 50,000 unwashed bodies, and the perfume they sprinkle from above to cover all of it is its own kind of assault. And then it's just you and the other man. He wants to die no more than you do. You circle. You've drilled this exact moment 1,000 times against a wooden post. The real thing is fast, exhausting, and pure terror. Heavy armor, a dry throat, and an edge that is very much real. Minutes stretch out like hours. Say you win the exchange. Your opponent is down, wounded, unable to go on. He lifts a single finger, the gesture of surrender, the request for mercy. And now comes the moment everyone paid to see. The decision is not yours. It belongs to the crowd, and finally to the man hosting the games. Often, the emperor himself. Here's what the movies oversell. Mercy was common. A gladiator who fought well was usually spared. He's expensive, he's popular, and killing him burns money and enrages the fans who adore him. Death was the rare exception that made the whole thing terrifying. But when the verdict went the wrong way, the loser was expected to take it without flinching, to kneel and receive the blade in silence. Dying well was the entire point. So, do you survive? On any single fight, your odds were actually not bad. Historians estimate a gladiator died in perhaps 1 match in 5, or 1 in 10. But you don't fight once. You fight again and again. The math quietly stacks against you. Most gladiators died in their 20s, after only a handful of bouts. A rare few survived long enough to be handed the rudis, a wooden sword, the symbol of their freedom. Most never got near it. And, if you were good, genuinely good, you became something very strange. A slave, a piece of property with no rights whatsoever. Who was also a celebrity. Women swooned. Graffiti praised you by name. Children played with little clay gladiator figures, the action figures of the ancient world. Your sweat was scraped off and sold as a beauty product. You were worshipped by the very people who would happily cheer for your death. That's the contradiction, at the dead center of it. Rome built the most magnificent entertainment machine the world had ever seen, and it ran on human beings who were owned, fattened, trained, adored, and ultimately spent for the sake of an afternoon's distraction. You were a superstar and a slave at the same time, a treasure and a disposable. The crowd would chant your name, and then, on a whim, ask you to die, and you would. Between fights, they rake the sand. Fresh sand, every time, to soak up what the last man left behind. The Romans thought of everything. Everything, that is, except the part where the people out on that sand were people. If you made it this far, the next story is waiting right there, and trust me, it's even worse. See you in the past. If you'd like to survive another piece of history, subscribe.